So here's my 4x4 Labs bumper. I'm going to do a fix on the air conditioning drying unit, that canister, but I wanted to show the bumper first. This is the burliest bumper I've ever seen. The attachment point wraps around the chassis box channel frame completely, and this is 1/4 inch steel. The hookup link right here, 3/4 inch steel, and there's 7 bolt-in points. With my calipers, I was measuring this and I got 3/16 steel. I got 1/4 inch with this. This is gray hammer tone by Cardinal Paints, and I had a zinc undercoating on this. The canister right here, my idea is to send it right up. Take the light out here. I got to take this bumper off first. So yeah, the bolts. These are 12 millimeter bolts, and that's what's holding it in on the bottom. There's 3 12 millimeter bolts on the bottom and 2 12 millimeter bolts on the top, and these are 10 millimeter. And when I'm saying 12 millimeter, I mean the actual threaded shaft of the bolt is 12 millimeters in diameter, which is almost a 1/2 inch, not quite. And the 10 millimeter ones, meaning the threaded part, is 10 millimeters. So it's pretty burly attachment point on these. You got 5 of these, and then 2 10 millimeter. I mean, the thing's not going anywhere. It's bolted in properly. So this is what I did. I raised it up. I took out the battery tray, the battery and the battery tray, so I could get a look at the refrigeration hoses and see how I could work with them and flex them and what I was going to do. My idea of going straight up into the well here is actually going to work pretty good because the light here, I'm just going to take my Sawzall and cut this out and make it so it fits around there, and I'm putting in an LED bulb. This is going to be able to remain intact, the original socket. And I just kind of raised it straight up. I couldn't, it's a little bit at an angle because of these transmission cooler lines right here. The transmission cooler lines were a little bit in the way, but I loosened this off so I could have access to it. I didn't take the trim completely off. I just took off just enough so I could get my hands up in here and work around this. And you have to take out 2 bolts here. These are 2 12 millimeter head bolts, and then there's 2 10 millimeter head bolts from here. And then what I did to get this one out, I thought the light was going to be in the way, but what I did is once I got those out, I was able to flex this down enough, like about that much. After you take this middle one off, right underneath the Toyota logo, there's a 10 millimeter bolt right there, and that allowed me to flex this down quite easily, stick a flex head socket up in there, and I got that out. I'd say the hardest thing in this whole project that you have to watch for, and I'd be much more careful if I do it next time, is being careful not to kink the hose. Right here, the lighting's good enough in there, but the hose, the tubing, I should say, got almost kinked, but not quite. It got kind of close. Be real careful when you move it. This stuff is actually really soft and pliable. And I was trying to form it as I bent it. As I was raising this up, I tried to form the hose to a new position so it would have gradual curves and not a sudden kink like that. It's almost a kink. And I'd say that's the hardest part of the whole project that you got to watch out for when you're doing this. And so I measured from the mark the old mark on here to here is 2 3/4 inches. So I basically raised it 2 3/4 inches, which will help quite a bit. And I cut with my cordless hacksaw, I cut that off. And so it went up into the cavity where the turn signal was. And this is what I did. I cut out a section of this to allow for that to be up in there, and that's how I had to do it, and it's almost a perfect fit. I had to take a little bit more on this side, and I put an LED bulb inside there, so hopefully it won't give any problems. It won't put out as much heat, and that shouldn't be an issue. Plus, I think these are a little bit brighter. And so this is what I did. I took the aluminum foil, heavy duty, and I quadrupled it up, and I formed it to fit around that concave surface and cut it accordingly. And now I'm going to duct tape it in. There it is. That's a compound curve. Look that up. That's kind of hard to make the tape smooth when you got a compound curve like that in multiple angles. Like, go in just like that. Well, got it in there. All that work just to move the canister up 2.5 inches. But that 2.5 inches looks a lot more appropriate than the way it was hanging down before. It's a lot better. Alright, so here it is. That's my turn signal after its modification. There's the other side if you want to compare. So one of the things I wanted to show you here was the construction of this. If you look closely, the back part of the winch, which is probably going to have the most pulling power when it's loaded and it's winching in, the strain's going to be here. It's going to be trying to lift up here, and that 2-inch receiver material is welded all the way across here. That's why you can see that heat penetration line all the way across here. I don't know if you can see the 2-inch receiver up in there, but it has a solid, really good weld all the way across here. It's also welded in the back.